So everybody, thank you all for waiting. We're sorry we had a few delays. Lucy can tell the story in a second. Thank you all for joining for the Puppets Dojo tonight. It's been a while. I'm sorry. I'm very busy with a lot of things. More on that on Twitter later, because we're here not to talk about me, but we're here to talk about this person here with me. Lucy, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I think we noticed we're both tired as always.
Yeah.
I think this uni life is very stressful, usually. But like I think most of the people like either they know you already because you are an analyst for an LEC team, or they
Yep.
don't. So what about like can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the conversation?
So my name is Luciana, but people know me as Lucy, or my in-game name is Angelarcher, and I am a LEC analyst for EXL eSports, but I'm also a second-year pharmacy student in the UK.
Oh, that's great. So first out of the way, how do you manage to study and work with an esports team? I've been there. It's a hell of no sleep.
It's it's certainly difficult, but that's one word of phrasing it. It's just certainly difficult, but I think the thing with analysts is that it's quite flexible in the hours that I do and when I do it. So if I have a really busy day and I don't have time, then I wouldn't necessarily do anything. But if I have a free day, then I can get all of the work done for the week, which is not something that you really get to do as a coach. So I think I'm quite lucky in that
Yeah.
I'm an analyst and it enables me to do something like that, which
Well,
is good because it means I get best of both worlds. I really can't complain.
I mean, I remember when I used to coach Latin American teams. I mean, imagine you go to uni in a certain hour, and you come home, you eat something, and then you're watching streams until like 3 or 4 in the morning, and you wake up at
Yeah.
7 to go to uni again.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
why I didn't enjoy the coaching side. I tried doing that, but it was not possible. So respect to anyone that is a coach and goes to uni because I cannot do that.
yeah, I can imagine that. So, anyways, first chat. If you have questions, send them please here in the chat. We're gonna come to them later. You can also just send them later. It's all fine. So, because like Lucy, we know us obviously a little bit already, but how did you actually start becoming an analyst? Like, how did you get into the scene? Because it's so unusual to have new faces around here already,
Yeah.
like that come just like out of nowhere basically to the LC. But you've been like coaching or doing analysis for at least 1 or 2 years now.
Yeah, I think it was a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. So how it all happened was I had a very good friend in the UK scene,
Yeah.
and one day when he was streaming, I was like, oh, I would love to be, a coach or an analyst. It seems so cool. They know all this great stuff, and they're involved in such a big thing. And they thought I was joking. They like outright laughed at me until the end of the stream, and they were like, "Wait, were you serious about that?" I was like, "Yeah, I was." Kind of hurt my feelings. No, but he helped me out a great deal and sort of helped me make a portfolio. Obviously, I
Yeah.
never worked with a team before, so I had to show some example work to teams as to why they should like hire me. Obviously, I wasn't paid or anything like that, but just to get some experience. So he was a player in a UK team at the time, and he basically obviously had connections. He sent out my resume to everyone, and teams got back to me. So I was on the UK team Enclave for a little bit, helping out with their academy team, getting some experience for a couple of weeks, and then I joined XL
Yeah.
back when they didn't join LEC, so they were just a UK team. And I joined them for quite a while. I think it was about two splits. And then I moved abroad, didn't move abroad, I moved over to a German team Big, where I stayed as an analyst for one split and then a strategic coach as another. And then someone from the Direwolves got in touch with me again because I worked with them as a relief analyst during MSI. So I worked with them for just a short 2 days, just because they needed some prepping done that was like urgent, and I did that for them. And then that person now works in Excel as well, so they were quite keen in getting me back onto Excel, and obviously the manager was as well, and the coach that I've worked with before, back when it was a UK team.
Yeah.
So they got in touch again. I think I reached out, but they also reached out. So it was a mutual thing like, hey, hi, do you remember me? Yeah, and we got to that mutual decision that I would rejoin EXL after my time in Big.
Well,
And here I am.
that sounds like a great ride. So actually, you had already international experience before joining the LEC then. So this is actually a good part. So what? So before you explain what exactly you did there in with Big and Excel, how was to work with Direwolves actually? Like
I mean,
prepping for MSI and stuff like that.
it was a very short-lived thing. It was, we need some help. Our analysts, I don't know what they're doing, but we need someone else to cover for them. This is what we need. Can you get it to us in 24 hours? I said, yep, that's fine. I had a video call with the manager, or I think it was the performance coach. That was his official title at the time. Had a video call with him and the coach. They were over in, I don't even know where MSI was exactly, but they were over in MSI with the team. It's last year, I think.
Last
2018. I can't remember.
Wait, I'm thinking.
Not this MSI, just maybe it was two MSIs ago.
If it was last MSI, it was in Berlin actually.
I think maybe it was the one before.
Then
I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember. It was one of the two. But yeah, so anyway, they were like, can you get this to us in 24 hours? We really need your help. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Sure, I can get that done. So I didn't actually interact with the players or the coach because when I interacted with the coach to get what he wanted, so I made a list and then I did what he asked of me, and then I just presented it to him, and that was only the real interaction I had with Direwolves. I didn't speak to the players or like any other of the analytical team. It was very much a get in, get the job done, and come out. That was all that it was in that part. But obviously the performance coach remembered the kind gesture that I did for them under a really stressful time, and it was obviously a stressful time for me as well because I think it was around exam season or leading up to exam season. So I was like, yep, that's okay, I can do that for you.
Then it's your priorities.
Yeah, obviously I got my priorities right. And no, but it was a good thing because then the performance coach remembered that, and now they're working in Excel and they remembered that, and it just kind of shows to prove something that I didn't really think much about, but they actually like really took it to heart and remembered it, and they were quite grateful for it, even if they didn't obviously make out of groups.
Yeah,
they still remembered that kind gesture, and it got me quite far, right? I'd say. Yeah.
I mean, like this remember, like I think everybody that works nowadays in esports can relate to such a moment, because like everybody wants to get into, right? But everybody always forgets, like you have to somehow get in. So you have the one person that you help out sometime, or you do something for them for free, so you can actually show, hey, I can do this. Then suddenly 1 year later, you're there working with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's connections is such a big thing in esports. Like obviously it's hard, like to get in there, but I think it's just as hard once you're in to still get those connections almost.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've always said at the start, once you get your foot through the door, it does become a lot easier, but it's not going to be like a walk in the park. Like once you're in, you're in. You can still like come back out, you know, you still need to maintain yourself. And that's something that I'm not sure like a lot of people think about. They're like, oh, once you're in, you're in.
It also gets harder when you actually have to do the job, because like you have less time to actually interact with others. So we met in Madrid, obviously, like for the ULCS finals last year. So like those events are probably the best time you can actually meet people. But can you talk through what exactly like kind of work that you had to do like in such a short notice for Direwolves? Because I remember when I was coaching KLG, like I asked a few friends that they were not even analysts or coaches, like, hey, you know a little bit about League of Legends, can you help me prep? Because we literally also only had like 1 week to prep for 3 teams at the time.
It's quite funny because what I did for them is actually quite similar to what I do now, or something that I did anyway. So for me, what they asked me wasn't a big like shock, like, oh my god, I've never done this before. So what they asked me, I thought was quite standard, was quite expected. You know, previous drafts, solo queue tracking, like what kind of, like what do their drafts lead towards, like where do they put their resources, how do they play around it. So it was stuff that I consider quite normal and nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, the basic stuff for an analyst.
Yeah. And then they also asked me like really small minor things as well. Like I remember one of them was quite very specific. I think it was about something like bot lane back timers or something, like if they let the bot recall or if they like try and contest. So it was like some very minor, like micro things, but it was also the bigger picture stuff you see everywhere, drafts, solo queue, how do they play, what's their vision like, just stuff that I consider the basics, like the basics that you should research into every team, like no matter who you play.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the only thing you can actually do in 24 hours, right? Because
no,
you're not gonna be able to watch all their games in the season, or at least let's say a small size of games, and actually give a proper analysis with all those data as well, right?
Yeah.
So how many teams did you have to prepare there? Like
for them, it was only one. For Direwolves, it was only one. So I think I believe they had 3 analysts, but one of them wasn't, I don't know, I think he had an issue or something. That's why I was asked to step in. So all of the analysts got given a team, and I think I was actually given Kaboom. I was given
really?
Kaboom
How
to
convenient.
research. Yes, I was given Kaboom to research. So like it wasn't.
So it was last year.
Yeah, it was a lot easier. It was only one team, and like I said, the level and depth that they wanted me to go into, I didn't think was exaggerating or wasn't like justified.
Yeah.
So, and when you put your head down to it, it's very possible in 24 hours.
Sure. Well, then explain to the people that don't know what an analyst does, and what do you mean with tracking? What kind of drafts? What kind of stats? All the things like I'm the coach and I ask you now to do your job. What exactly would I ask for?
Obviously, the thing that I have found as well, and I didn't realize this until I worked with many other coaches as well, is that each coach requires something different of their analyst. And most coaches, especially in like the amateur scenes, like not LEC, they don't have an analyst, and most coaches don't actually know how to work with and how to utilize an analyst.
Yeah.
And like a big emphasis on the word utilize, because they might just give them something, but I'll be like, I can do more than that, like give me more stuff. Like I'm not dumb, like let me help you out. But initially what I do is so when I say tracking, I mean, standard solo queue tracking that all analysts do is look at op.ggs and that's their job. That's what I'm referring to. But aside from that, I like to think of making my work presentable to the coach and to the team in a manner that is very easy to understand. So I feel like that is a very big aspect of the job, because if you just have a wall of text or a wall of information that's not really easily digested, then you're making the job harder for the coach
as well.
Yeah. So I would do draft like tracking, so what they played before, what kind of tendencies they made, did they like to go into a 1-3-1, did they like to have a good like 2v2 mid laner and jungler, did they have a late game bot lane, just things that teams tend to go towards or patterns in that they draft. Obviously this is difficult because patches change a lot more frequently now than they did last season, but you still as an analyst need to pick up on these trends quickly and sort of make assumptions. You can't say, oh, they're gonna do this 100%, because they can go against the trend. But you just say, I think they'll do this because they've done this the past 4 games. So you need to
back it up. No.
Yeah, you need to use your evidence. You need to make your justifications as to why you think that. You can't just think, or you can't just say, oh, they like to play a late game bot lane, but they've played Caitlyn like the past 5 games.
Yeah.
Like you need evidence to back it up. And that's something that our job kind of is. So we make a point, we need to go justify it. We need to go to evidence and to back it up so that what we say to the coach, they know that it is true, that we have a reliable information source. So that is half the battle, I guess, trying to find that information to back up your statements and back up your research. So I would do, for the LEC now, I would do a in-depth analysis of the teams that we'll be playing against, alongside the solo queue and the draft and anything else that is, I think, is important. Like I used to do level ones and warding like patterns and jungle pathing patterns as well. Those are the things that I tend to focus on, and I think most analysts would focus on as well. I don't know like anything else really that they can do, but obviously it depends on what the coach requires.
Yeah, no, this sounds like for me very familiar because like usually like you have in the structure you have an analyst that only goes for the data and one that would look closer to the play style, so you can get like the information at the same time basically, because like it's a lot. It might sound like very easy. Hey, can you look up the level 1 patterns, the jungle patterns from the first 5 minutes of the games of those 5 games? It takes quite some time because like you have to track all down, right? Like do you have like a basic workflow to go through? Like how would you go? Hey, EXL's playing tomorrow, Fnatic. Here are the last 3 games. Look them up. How would you go like around them?
Okay. Well, number one, it would never be like a next day kind of thing. I would always have to do everything like a week in advance.
Of course.
Always. So when I did LEC drafting, I got given X amount of games. It was quite a lot of games to go through. I think it was the past 8 games or 6 games, one of the two. And I would start off by sitting down, going through every single game, and just noting down everything they did, like every minuscule thing. So support did this, jungler did this, everything, until I would have a long list for every single game. That was my method. I listed it all out. And then I would grab about 10 different highlighters and go through all my notes and see any tendencies. So if the support did something a lot, I would see that because I would highlight it all in the same color. So I would, at the end, go through everything like, oh, I have a lot of pink. That means that they did a lot of this and they did it before this time, because I would section it out into early, mid, and late. And that was kind of my method. It might have been a long method, going through every game, highlighting, grouping, and so on and so forth. But that was the method that worked for me because I was able to visually see what they did. And like obviously a color represented something to me. So that's kind of how I sat down and did it. But that was half of the battle for me, because then I had to obviously present it lovely and all pretty with colors and pictures for the coach. So
which
I would go on.
Which a lot of people need context for, because like there are a lot of analysts, like a lot of people that tend to know about the game, tend to know how to track and get the information, but the most important part that I think like Lucy's like very emphasizing to is like how you present it, right? Because think about that one presentation that you have to do for university. Like you can have a PowerPoint that gets the job done, or you can have a good PowerPoint that will get you the grade you need, right? And this is basically what you ask for, because you have a lot of analysts, a lot of good and smart people working there, but only, let's say, 10% of those are actually capable of presenting this in a way that you as a coach, in the last 5 minutes before the prep is done, you can look and skim over and remember maybe that 1 or 2 things that might make a difference in the draft.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. We should be able to make something that, like you said, should be presented to the coach, that the coach can then present to the team. We do a lot of background information for the coach, but you also have to think about one person further, like how will this impact the team? How will this change the way we play, change the way we draft, and change the way that we sort of think about the opponent that we're up against, but also about how we think about the game. So if we notice that one team does something particularly well, we would then, sit down, discuss, and then kind of use that as a background point or like a pinpoint to be like, this is what we should be aiming for. And again, this is something that, like you said, has to be presented, but it doesn't just have to be presented in a doc. People use slides, they use like physical presentations. So it is generally like you are presenting a university presentation to your team. and that's something that isn't necessarily known about, but that might just be due to the fact that obviously LEC, the analysts are there in person, and it might be harder, but it's not impossible. It might be slightly harder to do it in a remote setting,
Yeah.
basically.
I think like most of people also don't know because like it's very rare that you get actually to look into the draft and prep of a team. So
Yeah.
people like can only guess roundabout of what it's the work of an analyst. But like what you told now is how you work nowadays, right? But you had to start at the beginning, right? Can you still remember how you what you made, like what was your portfolio when you first did a job for a team, or like your portfolio to get into a team in the UK scene?
I remember it more or less. It was quite bad actually, but do you know what? That was the sort of format that I used for a very long time. It was, as I showed it to a friend for feedback, and he described it as cheap, like a cheap product that was made in China and can break any second.
Oof.
That is the way that he described it, and that is the way that is kind of pinpointed in my mind. But that I appreciated that because then I changed, and this was before I joined EXL for LEC. So this was after my time in EXL first time, after my time with MSI, after my time with Big, and I was still using a format that I had originally done when I first became an analyst. So I hadn't, my game knowledge grew a lot with
Yeah.
experience, but I wasn't able to translate that in an analytical point into a presentation. So it didn't really show. My months and splits of experience didn't translate through my work. And I didn't really realize that until this summer or this summer before I joined Excel. And in that 2 month period, 1 month period, I think I grew as an analyst and presenting my work tenfold to what I have in the past year, year and a half that I did as an analyst. And that was obviously due to a lot of people giving me feedback and helping me out, both analysts and non-analysts. So I appreciate them for what they did there. But it also kind of made me like appreciate that this is actually what I should be doing. Because before I was kind of going in blind, never worked with an analyst before, never knew what to expect, never seen an analyst work before. So I was just doing what I thought was correct. And it was not correct. It was very not correct. It was not optimal. It was so many block colors everywhere. It was all on a white background. I did everything on one page because I didn't like tabbing it up. And it was honestly not my proudest work, but everyone has to start from somewhere.
Well, I mean, this sounds a lot more insightful than a lot of work I've done in the past as well. So we've all been through that. Everybody goes through this stage like, I'm just gonna do this one sheet. I'm gonna put all there are information there.
I can fit all the information on one sheet, and then it's like
and then
50 down and like
exactly.
A to AB across.
And then you have to scroll to the side, to the button, and like get lost. And nobody knows actually what you're talking about in the end, right? And this was glorious days of league analysis in 2016 and 15. It was a wild west of nothing because nobody knew what they were doing. But anyways, so how was like comparing your experience in EXL like previously, not the LEC EXL obviously, and your time in Big, because you not only worked as an analyst, but you also made the jump to actually try coaching, right? And how was it for you? How was your time there? What did you learn? What was the challenges, basically?
So the way that I always think about this is that the first time I joined Excel, that was a starting point for me.
Yeah.
When I joined Big, that was the time I grew the most game knowledge-wise. And then when I rejoined Excel now, that is the most that I grew as an analyst. So going from first Excel to Big, at first wasn't a huge jump for me. I joined as an analyst. The coach at the time was Vermeer, who I think is now Unicorns of Love coach, if I'm not mistaken.
Not sure, no.
I'm not sure either, but he was known around in the Benelux scene. So I worked with him, didn't really work with an analyst before, so again, didn't really know how to utilize me. That was fine. I worked with Jungler a lot. I helped them out. but there was some times where I felt like I was going above and beyond my role.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of the VOD reviews. I was covering for the main scrims when he wasn't there. So I was working quite a lot with the players, and then that's when I kind of grew in my game knowledge and in my confidence, because it's not something that I've done before. Back in Excel, like the first Excel, I was an analyst. They take a backseat role. They don't have a lot of interaction with the players, especially in a remote setting when everyone's back at their home.
Yeah.
So it was a new experience for me, and I grew a lot in confidence, but also in my game knowledge, because I was putting that theory from Analyst into an actual live case. I was giving feedback there and then, and that was something that I hadn't done before. And then obviously Big saw that, I was putting in a lot more effort than I actually was, like my title. My title was Analyst, but then I was acting more like a strategic coach, more like an actual coach. I was helping with draft as well. And then second split, they promoted me to a strategic coach.
Yeah.
But then we also got a new coach who's now the current coach, Avindir. Yeah. And he is one of the smartest men like I've ever worked with. He was amazing to work with. He had such like broad game knowledge, and it's something that Vermeer didn't really have. So I learned a lot from him, game knowledge wise, how to lead a VOD review, how to just kind of work with the players and improve them in the game. And I learned a lot from him, but at the same time it was very difficult for me, because that when I was strategic coach, it was back when I started university this year. Yeah. So I had university. I couldn't partake in as many scrims. My internet was very bad, so I kept disconnecting, and that would distract the players. So I just said I would not join scrims anymore, because the disconnecting and the reconnected would affect their play. So it was very hard for me to sort of do my actual strategic role. So I kind of went back into an analyst role. So looking back at it, I feel like I almost should have switched them around. Like the first split with Vermeer should have been my strategic coach, and the second split with Avindir should have been my analyst role. Yeah. But it is what it is. It was just unfortunate that university and my internet kind of got in the way of it. But I grew so much in Big. I think that was one of like my steepest curves of what I grew and what I learned about just outside of the game, and what I learned about myself as well. I think after my time in Big, I knew that I don't want to do coaching. I want to go back to being an analyst and sort of having that flexibility again, because it's more suited for me. Like in the lifestyle that I have is more suited for me.
But like, was it only about your lifestyle, like because of time issues with uni, or how was it for you to coach? Because I think you were also there for every time you could, or they had LAN, you were actually on place with them, right? You were there for the boot camps at least.
No, I was there for the boot camp as well. I was there for the week-long boot camp they had in... I can't remember the name, and I don't want to say the wrong name. I think it was Offenbach or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there for the boot camp. I was there for the LAN, so I missed a lot of university. They basically had a LAN every month, more or less, because we always qualified. And it took a big toll on my university at one point. My grades didn't slip, but it was becoming very hard for me to catch up with the work and maintain on top of the work. So much so that my mum kind of told me, you need to lay off gaming for a little bit because it's getting too much. So it was very stressful. It was a very stressful time for me, but it was also quite annoying to myself that my internet and my time schedule kind of stopped me from reaching what I did in the first split. So VOD reviews, helping out, and it did get quite frustrating for me. But again, it kind of learned that I can't do this. I have university. It's impossible for me to maintain a coaching role as well as a university role. Whereas before, I was able to maintain a university role as well as an analyst role. And looking back at it, I definitely prefer an analyst role. Like, coaching was fun and I learned a lot, but I would never be a head coach or like a just any other type of coach, really, unless it's an assistant coach. That's just me. Like, I would not
Well,
do
what's
that again.
the specific reason except for the time?
I think a lot of it is confidence. So I
Okay.
gained a lot of confidence when I was like sort of coaching, but that wasn't very like a high level almost.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I was to do it now, I feel like I don't. This is I don't want to tell the players the wrong thing. I don't mind taking responsibility for my mistakes, but at the same time, I don't want to let them down, and I don't want to feed them wrong information that can then cause them to lose.
Sure.
So it's something that I don't think I'm suited for because of my confidence, but it's also something that I don't think I would like to do just because of the pressure and obviously time commitment, but you set a time aside from that. So it's mostly just confidence, I guess.
Well, but you're confident now in your work, aren't you? Like the work you've shown me, like and talk about, like seem very very good on a high level. Would you'd say like now, at least as an analyst, you have the knowledge that could provide this type of information at least?
Yeah, I think I was always confident in my ability as an analyst because obviously I've heard feedback from coaches and said it was good. So I was always quite confident in that. But and I think that again kind of suits who I am as a person. You know, I
Yeah.
like doing the research, I like presenting it. And it's something that I think it's easier to work on compared to if you were a coach. So if you have a small mistake as an analyst, I think in my mind at least, you can come to a quick solution and
Yeah.
fix it. Whereas if you're a coach, I feel like you'd have bigger
Bigger
issues
problems.
that may take longer to solve and to resolve. So I just think being an analyst is just it's better for me,
Yeah.
but it's also I know it's just what I like doing.
Yeah.
I think it just suits me more as a person than coaching did.
I still feel like it was a good choice then that you at least tried out because like
It was a great experience. Like it was something that I said I always wanted to do. You know, like I had dreamed about going on the LEC stage and like drafting and being head coach, but then actually after I experienced that, I was like, I don't think it's for me. And I'm totally glad about the experience, and I'm grateful for my time at Big, and I learned so much. But it also was kind of a reality check for me that what I'm actually good at and what I actually want as well.
But I think like you may like learn the most important thing is what exactly is your role. And when we talk about coaching in general, nobody like knows what exactly. Oh, I can be a head coach. I can be an assistant coach. I want to be this and that. And most of the times the people forget like what's the best for me, right? Like this is not necessarily something like that you naturally can learn. Those are things sometimes that are just a given thing from the type of personality you are, and like saying that you tried it out and learned, okay, definitely like spreadsheets and looking up research is more of a thing. This is great because this is what makes a great analyst, providing like knowing how to maintain give it all the time. So like after this experience, then you had like a very good start in coming to the LEC with EXL then. So you had like an overview, not only what you need as an analyst, like what you would want as a coach, but also like you already had put in the time and effort to actually master a craft, right?
Yeah.
So how was it at the start of the split?
At the start of the split for LEC, do you mean?
Yeah.
So again, this is still a learning experience to me because back in the other teams that I worked with, it was only one coach and myself as an analyst. That was it. There was a 2-man staff.
Yeah.
Whereas now in Excel, obviously LEC, I work with another analyst for one. I've never done that before. Like in my life, I was like, don't really know how it's gonna work. But you know, like Alex, the other analyst, is amazing and he does so much great work, and I learn a lot from him. But I also feel like he also learns from me sometimes about certain things. So it's like it's a good thing to have someone of the same trait as you, and you can compare and you can kind of talk about, you know, none of the coaches are going to understand like about making Google Sheets look pretty, and just about different experiences and expertise. So like Alex is amazing at using Riot API and how like all that kind of technological side of stuff, whereas I have no clue about any of that stuff, and that's something that I need to improve on. So we both of us have our strengths and weaknesses that kind of merge well together, and I've never had that before because I've never worked with an analyst before. So again, that was a learning experience for me. But aside from that as well, we have so many coaches and so many like so much staff. Like it is actually insane. I think we have like so much staff, like coaching staff wise, and it's just amazing because you have all these brains in one room like talking about League of Legends, and it's like, oh, I think this, oh, but I think about this instead. And it's just like so great to see like both sides of like a conversation, and I just think it's amazing. Like it still blows my mind to this day.
So, did you have like a reality shock in the beginning as well? Like,
oh yeah,
damn, I used to watch Cassim play all the time, for example. Oh, Expect this guy, wasn't he the beast on the top lane for G2 or something
honestly,
like that?
I tried so hard. Like it was absolutely insane. I remember the first time I met like the whole team. They met, or like the coaches at least met for like a week before like an introduction week, and I didn't go because of university. So I was just there, and I was like, hi, nice to meet you. I like literally I was so scared, but they were all like so lovely, like every single one of them. Obviously I knew some people from like the first time on EXL, but like meeting all the other coaches and all the players as well, and they were all just lovely. But you also saw that they just love League of Legends and they were so passionate about it, and it was actually an amazing time. And then going to LEC as well, that was like the biggest shock factor of my life. Like I was walking around and I was seeing all these people. Do you know what? I was so proud of myself because I didn't fangirl over anyone. I was so proud of myself. I was like, maintain.
Yeah, everyone has this challenge, and there's always one person that breaks, and it's like you get this one glorious moment if you're standing on the side and watching. Yeah, I've been there.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Have the pictures to prove it. No,
actually, I could have maintained myself as well, so I'm good as well.
It was like the biggest reality check, and I think that when I went to LEC, like it just kind of almost brought a tear to my eye. I was like, you did the right thing. You wanted to go into eSports, and look where that got you. You know, like you managed to get managed to do both worlds, eSports and uni. You know, everyone told you not to do it, you couldn't do it, and now look at you, like you're finally here. And it was just such a big shock for me. Like I nearly broke down in tears, but I didn't. Nearly, but I didn't.
Later,
but yeah, it was
room,
just
right in the diary.
Later when I was alone in my room. No, it was honestly, it was an amazing time, and I think that was probably a highlight of my year, if not many years.
The year is not over yet, so there can be a lot more to come. So
who knows?
So how is it for you then to be with all those coaches in the room? Obviously, because usually your work is done before, right? Like before you go into the talks, before they go and talk about the draft, before they go into the green rooms and actually get ready for the game. So how was it first for you to be there, like really witnessing that very specific moment of like preparation for the game? And second, how did you like feel like about your work being there? Like, could you add something, or was it just a learning experience for you?
I think the first time I went, obviously, well, the only time I went to LEC, it was around the time where I just finished exams. I said, look, I have X amount of days off, I can come. So I would say 90% of it was like kind of soaking in the experience and learning as much as I could. And about 10 to 15% of it was actually my input. So I did help out Alex, the other analyst, with whatever he needed when we were there. And I tried to input where I could. But obviously, I only saw what I saw when I was there, whereas they were there for like a month or something beforehand. Yeah. So I inputted where I could. But at the same time, I feel like it wasn't exactly my place to, because I feel like I didn't know enough to input.
Yeah.
So if I had a question, I would ask. I'm not afraid to ask questions for the players or the coaches. So I'll be like, why did you do that there? Or why did you draft this over this? So for me, it was definitely a learning experience, especially on that high level, LEC, like Chris Singh and Expect were there, and then XL as well, and then Cadrel, like they're all experienced people. So I try to get as much from them
Yeah.
as I could, but I also knew then how they thought, their thought process, and I kind of knew what kind of things they expected from me in return. So it's kind of like a two-way thing, but I would definitely say for me it was more of a learning experience for me.
Did you improve just by like witnessing, watching how the team worked, how the coaches worked with a certain player, and what like type of information they might need in the future?
Yeah, I definitely did. So obviously we had a coach go through the VOD, but it was really interesting for me to point out like specific points in the VOD or why they picked that point. It was also really important for me to see how Alex, another analyst, operated during scrims. Like, what sort of things did he do? Did he do a coach, like a task set for him by a
Yeah.
coach? Did he have his own work? What kind of things did he do, and how did he manage his time? I When I was there, I did sort of track players' goals and objectives and see how they were getting on, and then question them at the end of the game or whatever. So I did that, and so did Alex. So I learned a lot about the process, and obviously I was there for a full week, the scrims leading up to the games. So I kind of know now what they do in a week, how they prep for their game, what days they do what day does Alex present something, what day do we have a presentation about this. So it was all something that I've never experienced before, so I had no idea what to expect until I got there. And now that I kind of know the process in which they do it, right? So they do this on Friday, but then they do this on Wednesday. I kind of know what they want from me and what they expect, and just what the players and the staff's routine generally consist of.
That sounds like a good week you had there.
It was a fun week. It was an amazing week.
Yeah, I mean, are you already missing all of them? Like, are you
I
wanting to
am.
come back?
I missed them as soon as my plane took off. It was quite sad. It was so sad, and I still haven't seen them since then. But hopefully I'll get to see them soon. Hopefully.
Well, anyways, like for you, I think the next thing will be EU Masters then. So, how much are you working with the UK team? How much are you helping in the prep? What's your role there? Will we be going, like if they qualify obviously to EU Masters, will we be going with them to the venue? What's your work there?
So academy team has always been my responsibility. So Alex would take over LEC and I would take over academy, and then we'd meet somewhere in the middle for some of the academy, some of the LEC, sorry. So I am pretty much always there for the prepping of the academy. Anything that they do, the coach can come directly to me. It has been fine. Obviously, I can't watch academy scrims due to university, so the number of input that I have on the academy is limited. Not insignificant, but it's obviously limited. So I would work a lot with Taxa, the jungler, and I would also work with the coach about the draft and the solo queue and tendencies and stuff like that. At the minute, it's both me and Alex focusing on the academy to make sure that we go to EU Masters, which I think we play for pretty soon. I know we have a game tomorrow, but I think that's just a regular split. I'm not exactly sure. But I would have loved to go with them for EU Masters, obviously, if we get to make it. I think the dates were already released, so I would definitely try and make it there if EXL were to make it that far, which obviously they will because they're amazing and they're the best. But yeah, I would love to go with them to EU Masters, especially since I didn't go last time, or the last 2 times actually.
Oh yeah, you're with them, right? Wait, how many EU Masters were there actually already?
There's been 2.
2, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then it's about time, right? I haven't been...
Third time lucky.
Yeah, I haven't been at the past 2 EU Masters either, so I'm missing out as well. I should make my way out there, I think. Anyways,
Yeah.
what is your work then? Like, what's the difference between your LEC work and your academy work? Because obviously you have more of a responsibility over the academy team, as it seems. And like, is there anything that you do differently, or like you just like do the same work? Just you have a little bit more spare time to work on performance coaching with several players, or what exactly do you do there?
I kind of do different work for both. So for LEC was more one team in-depth analysis of them. I used to do jungle pathing with K-Draw at the start, but towards sort of a month and a bit in, we kind of stopped that. But academy-wise, I do more but less in depth, because in the way the league system works in the UK is that you play one game on a Wednesday, and then the Thursday all the games get jumbled up, and then you can play up to 3 games in a row a Thursday. So you don't know who you're playing against necessarily on the Thursday, so you have to do more, or you have to do a little on a lot.
Oh,
So you
this
have
is
to go through
crazy.
every
What
team.
the
So
fuck?
I don't have the opportunity to sort of do an in-game, like a deep in-game analysis, unless it's on the Wednesday's opponent, which we know, I think, 2 days before anyway.
Oh,
So it's very hard to do anything. I could, do a report on the Wednesday night for the Thursday, but again, it doesn't sort of help with their prep or anything. It's very last minute, and then you don't know who you're playing second game on a Thursday because you don't know who's going to win out of these two. So it's very not. I don't like it just because
yeah.
I can't really fulfill most of my job, or I feel like I can't because I can't offer deep in-game analysis. But instead, I do just very standard things, all of the draft, all of the solo queue, and then all of the jungle pathing. I just do those 3 points for the academy. That's basically what the coach requires of me, considering I can't watch scrims.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the same time, it's also something that I can't do more. I could do in-game analysis of like all 8 teams, but I don't know who we're going to be playing against. I don't know when we're playing against them. Like one team, I don't think we played for like 4 weeks because of the way the system worked, and they lost, and so we didn't play them. And it's just not an optimal system for someone to work as an analyst. And obviously it's going to be different for playoffs, because I think it's either best of 3 or best of 5. So for that, I will be offering deep in-game analysis for that, which is good because I kind of miss doing that. But yeah, it's very different to LEC.
Yeah, of course. But then that's crazy. Like, 2 days before, if you're having like 1 or 3 games,
Yeah,
that's insane. Like, what the hell? Oh man, this remembers so much to the time I coached, and like everybody was trying those different kind of schedules and systems, and so we actually go back to the best of 1 format in the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I hope it's like they work something out, because like this is horrible for preparation in any sense.
It is horrible for preparation from an analyst point, or even for a coaching. But it is a new system that they have kind of implemented this year as well. So I'm not sure that they are going to change it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams, I think, prefer it, or they don't really mind it. So I think it's just the analysts, or like myself, really, that I'm not really a big fan of it, especially since a lot of teams in the UK don't really have analysts anyway. So it doesn't really affect them. It's just kind of me that has a little bit of an issue with it.
So hey, I'm Lucy, and I have a problem with that.
We have a bit of a problem we need to discuss.
I see.
It's okay. I can still help the team, but it's just very limited.
Yeah, of course.
But what can you do?
So, Chad, if you have questions, don't send them, because I'm gonna get to them in a bit. I just have one more last question, and let's say, how would you like recap your first split in the LEC? How was it? What did you learn? What was your biggest lesson, or let's say your biggest, like your favorite moment of the past few months?
I mean, I can already like say my favorite moment of the LEC split and that was the game versus Misfits with X-Specs Baron Steel. I was nearly crying towards the end of it, and I was just jumping around, and it was like one of the happiest moments like in a while. So that's definitely like my favorite moment. I think the biggest lesson I learned from working at LEC, and this was one that I didn't actually expect as I went in there, was that I feel like I'm not out of my depth. So when I first joined EXL, I was like, oh my god, LEC, this was like my dream. What kind of things do they expect of me? Like, what kind of work? Is my work going to be good enough? Or, you know, is it still like at a national standard?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest lesson I learned was that I actually, or I feel like at least, like, A, I can do this, and B, I belong there. Like, I'm not out of my depths. I'm comfortable in what I'm doing. I'm comfortable in the quality of the work that I'm putting out. I'm able to work well with the coaches and the players, which is something that I didn't think I'd do. I didn't think I'd be able to go up to Kasing off just going to be like, why did you do that there? Why can you have done this instead? Like, it's not something that I expected or ever imagined of doing. Like, this is a dream for me. So it's definitely been a reality check. Like, yes, I can do this, you know, I can kind of grow from this, you know, like I did trials for like other LCS teams before, and I never like quite made the mark, but now I can, and I'm like, if I applied again, not saying I would, if I did, you know, would I be able to do it? Like, am I at that level yet? And it's just kind of shows how much I've grown, and like, because I wanted to do something, and it just makes me so happy, because at the end of the day, is like that hard work has paid off, and in a way that I never thought imaginable. Like, this was a dream for me at some point, and it's finally becoming a reality. And I just think that's the biggest life lesson I've ever learned.
This is great. This is great. This is great. So, I have a few questions from the chat, from the meals. First, thank you for the question. How much input does an analyst have regarding roster changes? An example, bringing in Mystiques when he's smurfed on trash. Can you talk anything about that?
I think I can. So, roster swaps are something that all the coaching staff, as well as the players, if need be, have an input. So this was obviously announced from Ferndog's tweet, but we bought in Mystiques because he was smurfing on Thresh. It was something that obviously we don't take to like lightly. We like, they sit down and have a conversation, and obviously think about how do the players do like in the week. We do this every single week. Like, how have the players met their objectives? How have they performed this week? What's the next step for them? So it's something that all the coaching staff has an input in, and I feel like analysts especially have a role in, because we particularly like look out for player objectives, and we track them if need be. So Alex was doing a lot of like one-to-one with a certain player. So I feel like analysts do have input regarding roster swaps, but it's not just only coaches or only analysts. It is kind of a team thing. Coaching staff, analysts, coaches, and players as well. Sometimes they are like, you know, what do you think? How would you feel about this? So it's a very like nice open system. Like, nothing's ever held against anyone, and there is input from all sides, really.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And from Huor, we have another question. How many hours a week do you spend on your analyst job?
So I actually have a cap on my contract.
Oh.
Because of university. They said that I will do 20 hours a week on Analyst, and the other time obviously on university. So this was something that was discussed right at the beginning, like where the cap would be and if there would be one specifically. And I got very lucky in that all of the EXL UK staff have all been to university. They all know what it's like. They know it's daunting work. So they said are you happy with a 20-hour cap on your workload? I said, yep, that's fine. So
Well,
fine by me.
how professional we've become. We have time caps now.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because they don't want me to obviously fail my degree and then have to pull out. But they obviously want me to do enough work in
Yeah.
the organization. I think, 20 hours is something that's very doable. So when I did, this was when LEC was on, I'd do 10 to 15 hours on the weekend and then 5 to 10 throughout the week. So it's something that is very flexible, and they always said, as long as you get it done by a deadline, we don't care when you do it. So if we want something done by Sunday, 7 o'clock, and you get it done, fine. It doesn't matter if you did it for 5 hours at 3 a.m. or you done it for 1 hour every day. As long as it's done by the deadline,
Yeah.
and I am around that hour cap, they're more than happy with it, and so am I. So I agree with their hour cap, and I agree with their values and their method of me putting out work, basically.
Yeah, I can. I think that's a good thing, and also like it's also only possible because you're an analyst, right? If you would have to be the coach, as you mentioned also before, it would not be possible because you cannot miss scrims, right?
No, and it would actually be impossible for me because all other university students, they have a set routine, they have a set timetable. My university timetable changes weekly. So today I had a 9 to 5 day, tomorrow I have a 9 to 12 day, Thursday I have a 9 to 4, but then next Thursday I could have a 9 to 6. So my schedule changes weekly, and it's a nightmare to plan around, and I have minimum of 20 contact hours for university a week. So it is a hard routine, and it does make it especially difficult in my case if I did want to become a coach.
Well, I was lucky then because like at least I know I had like an 8 to 4 schedule for university.
It's literally only my course that does this. Everyone else has like a one or like timetable, they're fine with it, whereas me, I literally have to check my phone like every day, like what schedule do I have tomorrow.
Well, like it's not uncommon here in Germany either. Like it's just my university had like this schedule. Like public universities in Germany all around have like something like this. So I think I just got lucky there.
Yeah, it's just at my uni they just hate my course. Apparently, like, no, you can change every week. Like, oh, okay, that's great.
Wow, that sucks. So if you had the choice, like, this is gonna be a mean question. If you had a choice to go all in into esports now and after you have obviously your degree, would you choose esports or would you follow pharmacy?
I knew this question was going to come up at some point. This is something that I've always said since day one. I said I will pursue esports as long as possible alongside my studies. I have never said or agreed with myself personally going all in into my studies. So for one, it's because it would be very difficult for me to leave my studies and then come back. And for two, I'm not sure about like what the policy is about me after my degree leaving for a couple of years for esports and then coming back, because again, that's tests and paperwork and everything I would have to redo after my degree. So I've never agreed going full-time in esports completely, but I have always said that I will pursue esports alongside pharmacy as long as I can. If that means I take like my last year off and then I come back after that, or I have a 9 to 5 job but then I still do esports as well, like, I'm perfectly happy with doing that. I did say that, or I would like in long periods, so like summer where I have 4 months off, that I would go full-time in esports for that period of time. So my studies will always come first.
LEC for summer split then?
I would like to. Obviously it depends on various sort of like factors, like if I have resits when I finish, the LEC schedule. So I would like to, but obviously in reality there's a lot of different factors that need to be considered. But I would like to go full-time in not just this summer but any other summer in general, because I have 4 months off and I wouldn't like to spend it cooped up at home. I would like to go out and do something.
Sure,
And
sounds
for
fair.
me, that passion is esports, so it only makes sense for me.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Also, another great question from the Mills. Do you still enjoy playing the game? Or do you get burned out having to spend so much time on it?
It's a very difficult question. There was a time where I didn't play the game a lot, but that was due to my bad internet rather than anything. So that kind of gave me the break that I wanted. Now I still play occasionally, but not gonna lie, it's mostly ARAMs. I'm not gonna go into a ranked game or a normal game and just try hard. Just because I am kind of burnt out, but again, I haven't played in a long time, so my mechanics aren't really that good. So if I do play the game, I would do it for fun, with university friends, with online friends, that sort of thing. But then again, that's always been me, so I don't really know if I've been burnt out on it because I only used to play for fun anyway, and I really did ranked and stuff like that. So I would say I still enjoy the game, but I only ever enjoyed the game when I was playing with friends and just having a laugh and that kind of stuff compared to try harding. I could not try hard.
Fair.
I would get too annoyed at people.
I can totally relate to that. I haven't been playing League of Legends anymore.
Can you imagine though? Like you have all this knowledge and like I want to play it this way, and then you have like four other like plat 2s in there, and you're like, no, we're gonna do instead. I'm just like,
the moment I started coaching, I stopped playing. Like it got, I still play it like occasionally. Like actually, until 2 years ago, I actually always got at least platinum in the rankings, and then like I would stop always playing because no time for the push for the diamonds. And like every time, like in the past 2 years, no, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't work anymore.
It's just
like,
and it's so true. Like so little coaches actually play. Like when I was in the LEC house, like Alex played a couple of games with friends, and then George played 1 or 2 games. But like majority of the time, I don't know a lot of coaches that actually play. I know that there's a few coaches that are still like quite high ranked. Like I think Yamato Cannon is quite high.
Yeah, but usually the X players still go at least for the diamond push or like high diamond push.
Yeah, but I just think it's so funny how the coaches aren't normally like that high rank, because I feel like they do just kind of get burnt out of the game eventually. But I don't know, it's just like I don't feel burnt out. But
I can at least say for myself, like when I had like the choice to play or watch a VOD, I would always go for the VOD because I will learn more from the VOD, and my 30 to 60 minutes investment in that would be more would be better to transfer into like my next coaching session, for example, or like the next day of practice, right? And like nowadays I just like, well, I've been playing this game for over 9 years now. I need a change basically. So I've been playing other games competitively or doing something else, but I still watch all the LEC games, for example.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a different schedule, I'd say. Like you're so used to it.
Yeah, I think also it's the fact that I didn't start until quite late. So I started season 4 when Brawl was released. So I started quite late anyway. And then also I did kind of learn that when coaches had free time, they don't go and play like League of Legends. They go and watch VODs that they missed during scrim day. So they'll go watch LCK or NALCS or LPL. That's also another thing that I noticed, that coaches do that on their time off. They don't necessarily go and play a game, or if they do, it's something completely unrelated to League.
Yeah, usually that. Yeah, I think like if there are 5 coaches or so in the whole LEC right now that are high ranked, I think that's a lot. Like still, I think
I agree.
I think the preference of people actually valuing more like the free time to actually get off the game after many years of playing or working with the game has become more apparent this year. Like when I interviewed, for example, Kasing, he told me about like that he's reading books now in his off time, for example, like something that I never expect to hear from a player like in the past 4 or 5 years of League of Legends, because
I think Reckless did that as well though.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
And like just because like every player would, I have an hour, that means I can play one solo queue game, right? So this is like very different, like how players are changing the schedule as well. like people are getting more aware of how important like free time and doing things outside of League of Legends can benefit into the game, right? That's
Yeah.
also something to add to that discussion.
I think also, I don't know how long this has been going around for, but a lot of players are starting to go to the gym now as well.
Yeah.
So that is again something away from League and something to sort of take their mind off it. They'll like read books, they'll go, but a lot of them will go to the gym. And I think that's very good both mentally and physically. You know, mentally gets them away from the game and gets them time to stress out, but obviously it's good for them physically because they're sitting down in a chair for like 10 hours a day. So
Yeah.
I think it's very good to have something outside of League, so I've take your mind off it.
Yeah, and I think like we can add finish the podcast with Damiel's last question. What are your playoffs predictions? Who's gonna take your NA? Do you have an idea?
Okay, so NA, I think it would be kind of wrong to predict because I honestly haven't watched a lot of NA. I know that is it Cloud9 are looking quite good, but then so are Team Liquid. So I'm gonna go with my boy Jack, Analyst at Team Liquid. I'm gonna say he's gonna take it.
All right.
And then for EU,
Oh, this is gonna be difficult actually. EU is very difficult to predict in my opinion.
so it's. Do you know what? It honestly wouldn't surprise me if Fnatic took it.
Yeah. I can see
I'm
that.
gonna say Fnatic. Yeah, I'm just gonna say Fnatic because I feel like I don't know if G2 are gonna have a reality check by playoffs. Splice are really strong though. Vitality bit on the weak side recently. Who was the other one? Origin.
SK and
Ooh.
Origin. Yeah.
Oh wait.
So basically, it's Fnatic, Vitality, Splice, SK. The winners face each other. G2 OG is already playing the other semifinals.
So it's gonna go. Fnatic's gonna win versus Vitality. Splice are gonna win versus SK. Fnatic is gonna win off Splice.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be probably the closest one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
But
so too.
I don't know why. I feel like Fnatic might have an edge, and I don't know why exactly. And then Origin and Fnatic. I love Origin's macro. That's the thing. I love their macro, but sometimes they make really stupid mistakes. So I'm gonna go Fnatic over Origin, and then Fnatic and G2.
So my bold prediction is actually Splice and Origin in the finals. Like I think Splice is gonna really show off because I feel like they are playing really high level of League of Legends right now, and everybody's not looking at them properly. And I think they're one of the smartest teams right there.
Dark horse. They are the dark horse. I agree.
And I feel like nobody will. Like I think they haven't shown their whole potential right now, and I think this is gonna come up in the playoffs. And if they beat Fnatic, I can see them taking the whole thing.
No, I'm just thinking though. I agree that Splice is a dark horse, but I feel like a lot of them relies on Xerxes having a good game for one. But also, I feel like I don't know how their rookie mid laner Humanoid. He's been very good in regular split, but I don't know what he's gonna perform like when the pressure is actually on.
Oh, against Lemons is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Yeah,
it's the test two of the rookies against each other. But I feel like a lot of Splice does depend on Xerxes doing something in the early, and if that fails, it's fine. Cobby's there. So I'm not. They are definitely a dark horse. They are a dark horse, and they are.
But I agree. The Fnatic Splice matchup is going to be so fun because
I think that's going to be one of the closest
versus
ones.
Reckless matchup will also be also very interesting because like Cobby has heavy, like in my opinion, one of the best, like probably the best AD carry we had this split. So I think this is going to be very interesting. We're gonna come back to that later. We're gonna have to come back if Fnatic and Splice do end up playing. We have to analyze the series then here. I'm sure you're gonna be down for that one.
It can be done. It can be done.
Okay. All right, Lucy. It has been a pleasure to chat with you.
You too. Thank you very much.
We're coming to an end. Do you have any shout-outs left to all the fans, to all the people that support you on your journey?
I have fans. Oh my god! No, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting me through my eSports career, and I hope that you find my story very encouraging for you to chase your dream in eSports and outside. And if someone tells you can't do it, you can.
That's a way to finish off the podcast. So everybody watching, thank you very much for tuning in. If you liked it, leave a follow here. I would appreciate you coming back for the next podcast. I'm going to do them regularly again. Sorry, I was away for a few weeks. Anyways, if you missed some part of the conversation or want to look into the other VODs, there's a YouTube channel called Puppets Dojo, so you can watch everything there. And yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you everybody that came here to support Lucy as well. So we see us in next week for the next Puppets Dojo.
Thank you.
And we are off.